First, the importance of an agile change team. It's not enough to put one or two people on the effort. There are multiple roles that need to be fulfilled. They don't always all have to be full-time, and they don't have to stay at the same level of commitment. You might start by committing some of the participants in the Agile Change team to only 2/3 or 3/4 of their time, but after the first 2 or 3 years, it might be 1/3 or 1/4 of their time. But make sure that you've identified all the roles that are necessary in the Agile Change team, and they are delineated in the paper, and that you have committed them in sufficient proportion to facilitate the agile transformation. So that's number one. Put together a great agile change team, and that will include executive participation. One point I make in the paper is, paradoxically, the member of the agile change team who perhaps has the lowest proportion of their time allocated to it, maybe less than 10%, is the most important participant in the agile change team, because without an executive champion driving the change and sustaining the change, it won't get the kind of traction that it needs. So that's number one. Number two, I think, is to think iteratively. In the paper, I identified 9 key practices of enterprise agile, and many of them will seem familiar from those who are familiar with agile development and lean management. You don't want to necessarily implement all 9 of them at once, but iteratively. Pick a few, work on getting them right, and then move on to the next few. And then finally, very important to define the leader's standard work. So in lean management, every participant, from a team manager to a division manager to a team member, all the way up to the executive ranks, has what they call standard work. This is the known and defined best way to do a job. Now, in the case of executive management, you're not going to break down a job into timed tasks, and you know that that's the best way to do that job. But nevertheless, you will define standard work for that leader to best do their job of helping to transform the organization along lean and agile lines. And this will include things like participation in Gemba walks, even virtual Gemba walks. They don't have to do it every day or even every week, but occasionally to go through the process with those who are doing it in order to encourage them to brainstorm new ways and perhaps to contribute some of that leader's own insight. And also, you know, most of the levels of management and teams in agile enterprises will have regular stand-ups, often daily stand-ups of only 15 minutes or half an hour. This is not necessarily going to be the case with executive leadership, but probably they will have some kind of standing, maybe a bi-weekly Thursday noon meeting in which they will review, let's say, the project portfolio. And what are the proposals, and what are our priorities, and are we in alignment with strategy, and what do we do about these problem projects? Do we kill them? Do we fix them? Now, this is probably not going to be a 15 or 30-minute session, and since these are senior leaders, they might not want to stand up. It might be an executive sit-down, but it is still a regular meeting and part of their defined leader's standard work, and they may very well define other activities that they should perform as part of their leader's standard work as well. So those would be the 3 things, I think. Make sure you've got an agile change team that is properly constituted, fully allocated, that you're iterative around implementing the 9 common techniques of enterprise agile, and that you've defined the leader's standard work so that executive leadership defines what they need to do to really promote and sustain the change.